Hello, I'm Jeff Ranke, Editorial Director of Manufacturing.net and Manufacturing Business Technology. Welcome to Security Breach. If there's one thing that has become very apparent in dealing with cybersecurity issues throughout the industrial sector, it's that responding to these challenges means taking a look at things from a different perspective. Well, that's what we have today. I recently sat down with JohnE Young, a 35-year veteran of industrial IT and cybersecurity. He's recently embraced his role as JohnE Upgrade and launched cyberd.tv, a streaming subscription service devoted to providing comprehensive cybersecurity training. Last time, JohnE talked about individual steps that can be taken to help defend against cyber terrorists. Here, he discusses things from a broader, enterprise-wide perspective.
Service level agreement can be between companies or it can be between departments. For one example, for a provider of networks, right? Say I have Verizon and they guarantee I'm going to have 99.999% uptime, but it fails to happen. Well, they pay penalties, right? Same thing in between departments. Say the server team manages all these different departments' servers for the software developers, so they don't have to spend their time managing the servers. If they don't make their service level agreement, then they're going to pay penalties. And the biggest service level agreement I think people can relate to is Domino's Pizza. I don't know if you remember that. What was their agreement? 30 minutes or less. They're going to get you a hot pizza. Otherwise, the pizza is free, right? Well, that's a service level agreement between Domino's and their customers. So if anyone has trouble with service level agreements, just remember Domino's Pizza. It's basically a promise and a penalty if you don't get there. But these service level agreement penalties can run into the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. My advice is get a service level agreement. And if you're going to get a service level agreement, don't get a 3.9 service level agreement, get a 5.9 service level agreement. And the difference between a 3.9s, which is a 99.9% say uptime, compared to a 99.999% uptime is something like, I think it was 8 hours a year compared to 12 minutes a year.
Because there's a lot of stakeholders within the industrial enterprise who understand that investments need to be made in cybersecurity, but it can be tough, as you probably have had experience with, in getting those funds sort of available to them when you go up the food chain. What advice could you give to some of our readers, our viewers, as they encounter that type of situation? Scarlett's got some thoughts.
It's getting easier. It's getting a lot easier because when I was trying to get budgets, it was considered overhead because not much was happening. Why would a company, smaller companies, spend $1 million on security when there's hardly anything happening, right? Well, as time went on, obviously, cybersecurity became more mainstream. And just the last year alone, 250 American hospitals spent over $100 million in ransoms to one single hacker group in Europe. I don't want to mangle their name. I think it's Ryuk, R-I-U-K, I believe.
Okay.
But they got $100 million, one single group out of 250 hospitals. So that shows you how deep it can go. The ransomware thing is just out of control right now. And, and that's where we go to the employee training again, because that's the phishing exploits, that's the malware, that's spear phishing, where they target certain people. It's not hard to find out who's, the head of HR or who's the head of medical records for a hospital.
Right.
And once they have those locked down, I was reading about hospitals that had to turn away ambulances with sick or wounded patients because, the power was out or they had, no way to diagnose anything. Their equipment was down, So these hackers are heartless bastards, basically, and they're killing people or seriously wounding them. And that really is one of the main reasons why I'm trying to get the awareness level up a lot higher. And
Absolutely.
Ransomware is bad. Malicious software can expose things like employee personnel records. You've never seen departmental fights like when everybody's salary is actually accidentally printed out to the break room.
I'm sure.
Which I saw happen.
Ransomware. I got to get your take on this one. Do you pay? Do you not pay?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
Initially, you pay. What else are you going to do? Close down your business? If you're a hospital and you can't take in any patients, you're losing, some of them $1 million a day, more. You got to pay, and they'll go and they're able to do what they did again. That's the problem is, when you pay, they may want to come back to you and get more, but when you pay and you get it, unlocked all those records and you're able to work again, you can secure things and you can work in the background. And also law enforcement can look for these people, because that's also good news, is that as hackers, sort of have evolved, law enforcement has evolved, and they're able to track them down. In fact, hacking groups are giving back money to get the heat off them. And that's why I advocate a lot of hackers to just, I have a series, I'm going to put out there why hackers need to stop hacking. It's a career that doesn't have a long lifespan. You can either get caught or you can be a part of a hacker group where they decide you're not contributing enough, and you get $1 million score, but instead of splitting it 5 ways, they'll just split it 4 ways. And how do they split it 4 ways? Well, what do criminals do? They kill each other, right? So, it's not a good field I would advocate getting into. And in fact, if you look at the appreciation and the depreciation over what they make, the average salary, say someone in cybersecurity, entry level is $100,000 a year or something like that. I don't know exactly, but if you look on Glassdoor, you can see all these different jobs. Over the course of like 7 years, they're going to make more than any hacker made, making $1 million score. Plus they have no law enforcement after them. They have benefits, medical, dental, education. Their family doesn't have to worry. They can actually have a family.
Yeah.
It's like a Coke dealer. What family's proud that their patriarch is a Coke dealer and they're, outside the law.
Right.
When they'd be more proud of someone that's actually bringing home money and, has a solid career and is well respected. You may not have that banana yellow Ferrari tooling around the neighborhood, but maybe you will. I know people that are making, $250,000 a year easily. Yeah. And a lot of it isn't really doing what I was doing in the trenches, with building the servers and running the teams and patching them and all the security that goes around that and defending them, the compliance and the auditing. One of my friends had actually said, why are you telling all your secrets to the world? Because then hackers will be able to, know what to do. I said, no, quite the opposite. These are fundamentals that need to be done. And once hackers realize the effort that we're putting into it, there's really not much wiggle room for them to be able to do things. They're going to go, here's my deal, Jeff, with the ransomware and all that. Hackers at that level and scammers are one-trick ponies, right? They'll do one thing and they'll keep doing it over and over and over again. They don't really have the training. There's no hacker university that they go to. Meanwhile, they're going against people that have years of experience, that have the wide spectrum of knowledge in every field, that you can imagine. Some are so specialized in a niche, of course, that they're absolute masters at it. But a hacker, you could buy a program off the dark web that will look for exposures on a network, and then you can buy another one that'll, breach a server that is exposed. You don't even have to have programming experience.
Right.
That's why during the pandemic, the FBI reported a doubling of the amount of scams and hacks that had happened that they were involved with, because people had time on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that desperation is the mother of invention. A lot of people say, necessity is the mother of invention. And I say desperation is the mother of necessity.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
when someone's desperate, they're going to figure out a way to get money. And that's why, Scotland Yard and Interpol, all of that have reported the same thing, that hacking has gone through the roof. And it's not people with real programming experience. They just can buy these automated programs that good programmers will sell. All I do is modify it slightly, and then they have these bots that go out and look for exposed websites. A mind-blowing fact is, right now, as we sit here, in the next 24 hours, over 30,000 websites will be hacked. And that sounds preposterous, right? Impossible. How can that be true? Well, when you look at the fact that 1.9 billion websites are registered in our world, 30,000 a day is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
And, that's why there's such a need for cybersecurity defense. And with ransomware, they have so many targets that they can go for. I can tell you one scam that they used to try to pull on me when in the early days was, I'd get a call. I call this like the angry executive.
Okay.
The angry executive will call and say that, they're at a customer site and they're doing a demo and it's our biggest customer. And unless they get access, then, they're having a problem. They can't get access. They need to get more access or something. And, when it's a new person at the help desk and they have an executive vice president calling them up and screaming at them over the phone,
wow,
they may fall for it. Whereas, they go completely outside the process that the company has of, the person would open a ticket. I'd tell them, hey, I'll send a guy over there right now. What company are you at? I'll send a tech out there. Because they're yelling $5 million, $10 million. I'll have your job when you get back, and next thing you know, it's some social engineer. They'll just try someone else, and I'll put out an email to everybody in the company saying, hey, watch out for these guys. And, but they'll tag people in PC support or the help desk if they're not outsourced overseas. But they'll just try to get people that are new and scared, that they're going to lose their job. So there's tons of different scams that they can pull. And
another unfortunate incident that we're dealing with, you mentioned it just before, was the Log4j vulnerability that's come up recently. Can you talk us through that a little bit? First of all, can you give us a little bit of a definition in terms of what it is, and maybe how the industrial sector should be responding to it?
A lot of companies will take a shortcut, basically. Rather than develop a certain module again and again through their software platforms, they'll use one that is open source. Say that it'll do certain functions like logging or, tell the time that is tried and true, that they know is going to work. Now, a software company I worked for years, the owner was a private company. He refused to allow that. And in hindsight, that turned out to be a great thing, because now they're saying hundreds of millions of devices are possibly vulnerable because of this Log4j thing. But basically, Log4j is open source by a nonprofit that has 19 other of their offerings have been affected. It's Apache Foundation. And people think back to one of the biggest hacks of all time was Equifax, and that was Apache Struts. And they did the same thing. Apache Struts is affected on this too. So basically, what you call this kind of software is middleware, basically. It's the glue that holds the application and maybe the device or the operating system together, so that the application software development company doesn't have to go through it and do all of these different things. They can use that. Well, that's great. You save software development time. The downside is now you've got an exploit in there that you've got to patch. And I've got to say, from my experience, when I was working at IBM, I had to patch. Apache was coming up all the time, and I was reading an article about it. There's only 5 people working volunteer to fix this problem for Apache, because it's a nonprofit, it's open source,
right?
And they have day jobs too. So they're saying they're getting only a couple hours of sleep while they're doing. I mean, literally, should something be out there that can affect hundreds of millions of devices and thousands or a million companies? I don't think so. I'd stay away, but you can't. Once it's out there, it's out there. Absolutely. And there's some major applications on the enterprise that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for the application itself, that are using these components that are embedded in their own software to do some of these functions. And it's a shame, really. And I've had to patch these open source products so many times, but they're free and they're good until there's a problem.
Thanks again to JohnE Upgrade and his sidekick Scarlett. For more information on cyberd.tv and to take advantage of a special promotion code for Security Breach viewers, check out the links below. I'm Jeff Ranke, and this is Security Breach.